1941. The world is on fire. London is under the Blitz and Rommel is tearing through North Africa. But in Iraq, a silent crisis is brewing that may determine the outcome of the war. The fuel for any modern army, oil, is at stake. Against overwhelming odds, a besieged British airbase defended itself using training aircraft, improvised bombs, and pilots who refused to surrender the sky, preserving Allied control of the Middle East. At that time, Iraq was officially independent but deeply divided. Britain still maintained military bases there to protect critical oil supplies and air routes to India, vital to maintaining the empire's cohesion. However, in April, a pro-Axis group of Iraqi officers overthrew the government and installed Rashid Ali al-Gailani as prime minister. The new regime aligned itself with Nazi Germany, hoping Axis support would end British influence. Germany saw vast quantities of oil and airfields, crucial ingredients for the war they were fighting. For Britain, losing Iraq would have been a strategic disaster. At the center of this confrontation stood RAF Habbaniya, a British air base west of Baghdad. Built as a training facility, Habbaniya was never meant to fight a war. It was home to fewer than 100 aircraft, mostly obsolete trainers like the Hawker Audax, Oxford, and a few Gladiators. These planes lacked armor, modern weapons, were largely fabric-covered and lightly built aircraft, mostly piloted by trainees who had never flown in combat. On April 30, 1941, some 9,000 Iraqi troops moved onto the plateau overlooking the British air base, armed with artillery and armored cars, effectively putting Habbaniya under siege. The Iraqis issued an ultimatum to the British commander, Air Vice Marshal Harry Smart: no flights, no movement, or Iraqi guns would open fire. Commander Smart knew that this was a death sentence for his men unless they took drastic action. With no reinforcements available to help, Habbaniya was alone. On May the 2nd, the British launched an attack on the imposing Iraqi position. It was a desperate gamble. Many RAF pilots had been practicing dive bombing the night before and hastily loading light bombs by hand. Driven by a sense of extreme urgency, the British planes took to the air and raided the Iraqi army, focusing on gun positions, supply columns, and troop concentrations. Iraqi anti-aircraft fire was fierce, but poorly coordinated and largely ineffective. RAF pilots lobbed 20-pound anti-personnel bombs out of their cockpits by hand while trying to dodge flak. Over 4 days, they flew constantly, the noise and explosions giving the perception of a much larger, better armed force than it actually was. Iraqi morale was waning. The persistent, aggressive actions of the improvised British air squadron was relentless and effective. The British trainers flew over 600 sorties. Mechanics worked through the night to repair damaged aircraft, while flight crews slept on the ground near their planes. Near the end of the battle, Luftwaffe aircraft showed up in support of the Iraqis. But it was too little, too late. Henkel bombers and Messerschmitt heavy fighters joined in the action, but the aggressive RAF pilots had home field advantage and harassed the modern German planes relentlessly, picking them off at remote airfields while they refueled. On May the 6th, Iraqi forces retreated. Habbaniya had survived. But more than that, British control of Iraq survived. Within weeks, the coup collapsed and British troops re-entered Baghdad, denying Germany a foothold in a region that could have changed the course of World War II. The Battle of Habbaniya demonstrated the psychological and strategic dominance of air power and reminds us that victory is not always achieved by the largest armies or the newest weapons. Sometimes it is decided by improvisation, resolve, and a handful of pilots who refuse to accept defeat. This forgotten battlefield helped establish the importance of air superiority and led to continued British control of the Middle East, a development that was pivotal in the outcome of World War II.